Okay. Right, so what we're going to do is work on the mean hive here at Good Shepherd Food Bank. Last week we came here and the bees rushed out of the hive. Jess had been saying that this colony is a little more temperamental than the other hives. It seems to have a much lower threshold for being aggressive. This one seems to have the least good disposition. Now that is full of bees.
Human. They all ran straight to the top too.
Yeah. This hive is the more temperamental of all the hives. If I'm going to look at requeening a hive, it's this one. So the first thing that you need to do if you're dealing with a hive which is aggressive and you're trying to work out whether you need to do something about it is you want your smoker going. So make sure your smoker is going well before you approach the hive. So first we've got plenty of smoke. So there's a number of reasons why a colony might be aggressive. First of all, it can be that the nectar flow has stopped. But the nectar flow hadn't particularly stopped. There's still a nectar flow. If it had been because of the nectar flow, you'd expect all the other 20 hives in this yard to be aggressive. Number two, it could be something like a critter of some sort, like a skunk is visiting the hives at night, scratching the entrance of the hives to eat bees as they come out. Again, you would expect more than one colony in the yard to be showing signs of aggression. In particular, if there was just a few colonies, would typically be the ones on the outer edge, in the corners or away where the skunk might be able to. You might visit a few, but it would be more than one. And then we can look for other signs of that in the yard as well. Then it could be robbing, and so bees being mean for each other. We're trying to keep these bees away from the camera, sorry about the bee noise. So it could be robbing in the hive, which is causing the aggression. But again, you'd expect that in the rest of the yard as well. So we're going to have a look, see if there's any other signs. But finally, if it's not robbing, it could be that the colony is genetically showing the signs of aggression. And if it's genetics, then the way to solve that is requeening a hive. Problem is that requeening a hive full of aggressive bees is no fun at all. Now this hive isn't that aggressive, so this is a relatively easy one to deal with. But sometimes you get a high percentage of the bees in the hive being really aggressive, and when that's the case, these tips that I'm going to show you now will really be helpful in making it easier to requeen an aggressive hive. Let's go and have a look. So the number one thing we want to do with a hive that's showing aggression is, well, first of all, let's check to see if we see any other clues. I don't see evidence of bees being eaten on the outside, scratches on the hive. I don't see that the plant life in front of the hive has been flattened down or anything like that, which would infer a critter is there scratching at the entrance, trampling the greenery. So that's not happening, so I think we can eliminate skunks as an issue. So all the signs are for this hive that we have a genetic component to the aggression. So the first thing I wanted to make sure that happens is we put smoke in the hive. And for people that are just getting started with beekeeping, putting smoke in the hive does two things. Number one, the bees will fill up with honey when they smell smoke. It seems to be a reaction of, what if there's a forest fire, we have to leave the hive, so they fill up with honey. A bee full of honey is much less aggressive than a bee that's hungry. Number two is that we're going to around camera. We might need to change camera people. Let's see if that will make any difference.
It might be the camera.
It could just be the camera, yeah. And smoke. I'll try and keep the bees away from the camera by blowing smoke over there, but smoke has the effect of getting them to eat a lot of honey, and a bee full of honey is a lot less aggressive, not that you'd know. But the other issue is that smoke blocks the transmission of some of the alarm pheromone between bees. When bees start to feel threatened, they release alarm pheromone, and smoke blocks some of the transmission of that alarm pheromone, which makes the whole colony a little less quickly going to an aggressive state. Seems that we're going to have an issue with bees here throughout, so we'll just do what we can as quickly as we can. I'll take the camera here and try and talk to it, because it's a little bit louder if I talk to it this way. So what the plan is going to be, in an aggressive colony, the bees that are the most aggressive are the field bees, the older bees in the colony. So it's not that the young ones aren't aggressive, but the older ones are the most aggressive. And going through the whole colony, we've got 4 supers here to find the queen. At least we know the queen is confined to the bottom brood chamber. That's a good thing. But going through the whole colony, going through even just those 10 frames in the brood chamber is not going to be fun, particularly in a much meaner hive than this. So what we do is we will get those field bees out of this colony by tricking them. We're going to take this colony and we're going to take it apart, and we're going to move it all the way over here. And we'll re-establish that colony in this location. Now, when the field bees leave the hive, as they go out to forage, they're going to go out into the wild, and then they come back, and they're going to come back not to this location, but to this one. And so the field bees will come back, but the colony will be gone. So instead, these bees are now going to move into this hive, and we're going to have a almost doubling of the field bee population in this hive. So number one, we'll need an extra super on this hive just to make sure that there's plenty of room, and we might take that by just simply taking one of these honey supers from this hive and transferring it here. That's probably the first thing that we'll do. So by having the field bees leave this hive, when we go over to the far location there, now we're going to have roughly half the population that we had in the first place. Half the population makes it much easier to find the queen, but what's more is that half of the population that's left is the most aggressive part of the population. So let's get started. So you want to watch? Yeah, just keep an eye on that it doesn't switch itself off. Maybe keep it an arm's length from you. Jordan, we're going to work on this. We'll blow a bit more smoke in. Take the top off this hive right now. And in order to take the extra field bees, we're going to put those honey bees on top here, just to make sure that this hive has the room to cope with those extra bees. So this is what happened last time. We're going to blow over the smoke on this hive here. These bees blew off in numbers last time. Just drive them back. Try and keep everybody calm. Now we know the queen is in the lower brood chamber, so that's okay. Honey soup. Now, the downside of this is that we're going to have very mean bees in this hive for a little while. But we'll see what happens. And continue, shouldn't have done that. Okay, I'm going to let you retire there, Cameron. These look so much. We're going to let this, we'll set this up over here. Watch the rest. Stand stays on it. These are my boots. Okay, let's back up to that. Yeah, the camera is covered with bees, so hopefully you can hear me. So what's going to happen? Well, it's pretty hard to get the bees off here, but this is why we're requeening this colony. Nobody wants a colony to behave like this. So what's going to happen now? As the bees leave this colony in the corner, most of these will fly back to the location. Let's depopulate this colony sufficiently to be able to find the queen, and then we will requeen that colony. It'll take something like 6 weeks before we see a huge difference as once we requeen the colony, from there on in the new brood are all of the new queen, and so that means this colony will gradually get better and better in disposition as the new queen's brood emerges and replaces the dying out older bees. So the problem with having to requeen a colony like this is it takes 6 to 7 weeks before the colony really changes in temperament, or before the whole yard does. Because these field bees who are going back to the old hives down there predominantly go into the colony next door. And because there's honey flow on, things will be they will mix together pretty well. But these bees are really mean, and they're bouncing all over me right now. So I'm going to put the lid on this hive and we're going to get away. Things in this yard will calm down over the next couple of hours. Initially it's not going to be any fun as these bees work out that the new colony is the one next door. So those bees will take residence there. Within a few hours everything will settle down, but still that colony is going to be more aggressive for some time. There's about 30 bees on the camera right now, so I doubt anyone can hear anything right now. So that is stage one in terms of doing the dealing of a colony with queen bees. When I come back here in 2 or 3 days time, we'll find the queen in the original colony, which is in a new location now, and requeen the colony. We'll dispatch the old queen and put a new one in. The other advantage of doing this is that the new colony is much more likely, the colony with just these young bees in it is much more likely to accept the new queen. So you get a far better survival of that new queen rather than her getting rejected. Now, not everybody has 2 colonies of bees. They have 1 hive, and that's the 1 colony they have is mean. If that's the case, what you can always do is set up a temporary colony in its place. Take a single frame of brood, put a brood chamber together, and make a single-story hive in place of it. Then the bees will go into that single-story hive, and you'll have a much smaller, non-reproductive colony that's going to be trying to raise a new queen in that frame of brood. But at least they will stay in that one location and they will leave. All you have to do is move it over. All you have to do when you're doing this procedure is move the colony further away than the next nearest colony. If you don't have a next nearest colony, you can make one, or you can struggle through and try and find the queen in that colony, but you can make a temporary one which you can always recombine with the other hive. Here's one of the examples of where it is much better, much more convenient to have more than 1 colony. So we'll stop it there and come back in a couple of days to dispatch the queen of the bee. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.